Here we are this wonderful morning. My name is Wayne Michael, and I'm going to interview that one and only wonderful guy, Bill Weinrich. And he is so exceptional, I don't know how to start this. Maybe the best thing, Bill, is just to introduce you and maybe start with maybe how your folks came here. How are you? How did you arrive here, and how did your family arrive here in Willows?
I see. You want that?
I think so, Bill. We have to find out.
Do you?
Yeah, it's very important because your mom and dad, I think, would be very important, and your grandchildren to understand.
Just
Yeah,
remind me
to understand how we arrived here, and your folks, I think, were both from Europe.
Oh yeah.
And I think they. You say your dad, I think, met your mom over in Calusa.
Yeah.
And kind of swept her off her feet. And they had what, 4 children? 4?
4.
You had 3 brothers.
Two brothers.
2 brothers. I mean, 2 brothers. Leo and
sister.
And
Francis.
George and Francis.
Yeah.
And well, you talk about them. You know, I mean, I know them all. I grew up in Willows, and I've always looked up to Bill Weinrich. He was just a grand person. He's been awfully good to the town. He's done a lot of wonderful things. And I think we should just kind of start and just start talk like we were talking before.
Oh, I see. I see.
Yeah.
Well,
oh, I see. Okay.
Well, I was born here in 1894 in Willows.
1894.
I remember there wasn't no street addresses those days. There were no street names. And 320 South Butte it is now. You know where Ben Beasley lives?
Yes.
In that house.
And you were born...
That house has been rebuilt.
But you were born right in the house.
Yeah.
There was no hospital.
There was a hospital, county hospital, but that was for indigents.
I see. Okay.
And, well...
So the whole family was born there then.
Water under the bridge since then.
Yes. Well, I think you went to school here.
Yeah.
In Willows.
Oh, yeah.
Willows. And then went on to, I think, St. Mary's College.
St. Mary's College.
Out in Moraga.
Business course. They called it a banking class, you know.
But in those days, that was a long ways to go from Willows.
Oh, yes. Yes, indeed.
Yes. And then you graduated from St. Mary's and...
Well, I only went a year.
Or you went a year.
Of course.
Okay. And then you came back to Willows.
Yeah, I came back and I worked in a garage for a year. And my dad didn't have room in the meat business yet.
Your dad had a butcher shop, though, at the time.
Oh, 94. They opened up in 1894 and took in $3.60 the first day's
My
business.
God, $3.60.
I've got it written in here.
Yeah. And I'm sure you were down there, and he taught you a lot of things about the butcher business.
Oh, everything.
Yes.
He had to go to school, butcher school in Germany to get a diploma. And if you didn't have a diploma in Germany, they wouldn't hire you. So he worked over there for a while. And then as soon as he was out of military service, he had to go for 3 years. And as soon as he was out of military service, he came to the United States. He had, while he was in the service, he had read a lot of books, you know, all about Buffalo-Bill, killing all those buffaloes. So he wanted to kill some of those buffaloes too.
I bet.
And he got one all right. And grizzly bear, he went to Canada twice. He went once for bear and once for moose. He's got moose too.
He was a good hunter then. He liked to hunt.
He liked it. That's what brought him to America.
That's what brought him here.
Yeah.
Now you say you worked though as a mechanic in an automobile garage.
Yeah.
But
for a year.
But you kind of had this idea of airplanes, huh? When did that start happening?
Well, I went to Oakland, and St. Mary's was in Oakland too. But I went to Oakland, but I stayed overnight with Garnet Black, who was born here too, but he was living in Oakland. I went on a train, and he came and got me at the depot. So next morning I went over to enlist in the service, and he talked me into enlisting as a pilot. So when I got over there...
Now this is World War I.
World War I.
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, 1917. And I I said, so I went over to San Francisco the next morning to enlist, and I told the man I wanted to enlist as a pilot. He says, you have to go across the street. So when I got across the street, there was an officer there enlisting people. I remember he had his feet across the table and reading a book, and he had those high leather leggings on, shined like you could see yourself in. And he asked me one question. He says, do you have a college education? I said, no, just a business college. And he said, no, can't use you. So I went back and enlisted as a mechanic. They offered training for mechanics. They wanted mechanics for airplanes, you see.
Mm-hmm.
And
then when you enlisted, you came back to Willows then? But how long did it take before you were in the service?
no,
then?
I never came back.
Oh, you didn't come back?
No, I sent home my serge suit.
Oh boy!
That's-
But that was a shock to your parents.
Angel Island is where they kept us overnight
Uh-huh.
after we enlisted.
Mm-hmm.
Give us the shots and all that
Yes.
stuff.
Uh-huh.
And I sent my clothes home to my mother, and she cried all day.
Oh, I'll bet. Yes.
Well,
yes.
anyway,
So then that right there. Then where did you go from Angel Island? Did they ship
Texas
you?
boot camp.
Texas.
Yeah, we were
Oh.
there a couple of months.
That was a long ways away too.
Yeah.
And you learned how to march and take a gun
All
apart
that-
probably and all that.
stuff. Yeah.
But when did you start learning about airplane engines?
In England.
In
They
England.
sent us to England for 2 months course.
Now, when you left Texas, did you go straight to New York, or how did you get
Yeah.
right to New York from Texas?
I never came home after
Didn't come
I
home
enlisted.
after you enlisted.
No.
And then they put you on a ship
Oh, yeah.
and took you
Aquitania, a
Aquitania.
big ship.
How many soldiers were on that?
Well, they said 8,000, but I don't think so.
Oh my gosh, 8,000.
But it was a big ship. It had A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K decks.
That many decks, Bill. Oh my gosh.
Deck, the K was down in the hole, you know.
I have to interrupt here. You see, Bill Weinrich will be 99 on the 22nd of July, and I think that's why he's so extraordinary. He's just a wonderful person, and I hope we can all just half meet what Bill has done. Will be exceptional too. But anyway, Bill, go ahead now. You're on the ship, and we're heading to France, and the war is on.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh no, you're heading to England. Is that right?
No.
Or you went to France?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And that's when they started teaching you about airplane engines.
Le Havre.
Le Havre, okay.
Well, let me see. No, I guess we did go to England. Liverpool. We got off at
Liverpool? Okay.
And they took us on a train and to this place where we would learn all about rotary engines.
Uh-huh.
They were using those at that time.
Mm-hmm. And they were liquid cooled, weren't they, Bill?
Hmm?
They were liquid cooled. Didn't they have a radiator?
Air-cooled.
Well, they were air cooled.
Yeah.
Okay, they were air cooled engines.
The one I worked on didn't have a carburetor.
Oh, it didn't. It just
No.
sucked it right into the piston.
Yeah. And the way they slowed the engine down was with switches. It cut out so many cylinders from firing.
Is that right?
Yeah, and it
Well,
goes pop, 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 pop.
I've never heard that before, Bill.
And
What kind of an airplane? Were there various?
this engine was a French plane engine, monocepat. And then there's a Clerget motor, a rotary, and a Larone. There were 3, but I only worked on the one. the monocepat.
But you had 3 engines for one airplane. You could take one off and stick another one on. Is that the idea, or
Well, no.
or there were different airplanes?
Different planes, I guess. I don't know anything about that part.
Yeah.
All I did was work on the bench and putting them together.
Put them together.
And
Okay.
I earned the sergeant's rating there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then they abandoned those engines, quit using them, and they broke up our squadron and made a salvage squadron out of it. And I didn't want to be on a salvage squadron, so I took a chance on a transfer to the 99th Squadron. And they were observation squadron. I've got pictures there of that the squadron took.
Of the battlefields?
Observation, see.
Uh-huh.
We had to take pictures of army emplacements, enemy emplacements, you know,
Uh-huh.
all those things. That's a pretty long story.
Story,
you know.
but that you were in the observation.
Yeah,
Now, did you stay in that build for the rest of the war?
yeah.
Uh-huh. Now, did you ever run into this fellow, what, Rickenbacker, the Red
No.
Baron? Did you ever run into him?
No, but I ran into General Pershing.
You ran into General Pershing? Well, that's what's
He
pretty...
came to our plant where we were working,
Uh-huh,
and they gave us a pep talk. They were going to put on a drive
uh-huh.
in August in the Meuse-Argonne section. And I was right later.
Yeah.
But he came to this plant where we were working and gave us a pep talk. He says, now I know you fellas all would like to be up on the front line where the action is, but you're doing a good job here, and you stay with us, you know, and so forth. And I thought to myself, you weren't talking to me.
You're allergic to bullets, too. Yeah, I have that feeling. Bill, where were you when the armistice was signed?
I was right close to Verdun.
Uh-huh.
And that was right after the war. Of course, I went into Verdun after the war was over on pass, and it was just leveled.
Now, did you run into any fellows from the Willows area that you knew when you were over in France?
Well, pretty near. Where we were camped at one place, we were on this place. We were on the main road that go into Verdun. And Argonne Forest, we were on the south edge of it. And the 91st Division was coming out one morning, and I didn't know it. I asked somebody who that was, about 10 o'clock, and he said they'd been all morning coming out, you know, relieved. And I knew a lot of Willows boys in there, and they said, the guy told me the 91st Division, and I said, oh, I've got to get out there, and I know some guys in there. Jim Boyd, the second, and Bill Feeney. Bill and I were real close friends before the war.
Before you were on over, yes.
And Maddox, Jim Maddox, and Walter Michael, your grandfather.
My dad.
Your dad,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I can't think of the
Yeah,
others.
but that was interesting that you'd run together,
But I missed
but you missed them.
A fellow came along finally. They didn't know whether that Company B had gone out yet,
or not.
and that was their company. And one of them says, "Oh yeah, they went out early this morning." So I missed them.
So well, now, how then did you get back to the United States? Just on a ship, just like you went over?
Yeah.
Did you? Yeah. And they brought you.
No airplanes.
No airplanes. It was back on a ship.
Yeah.
And then they brought you back across probably on a train to Willows.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Well, this is Presidio.
Presidio.
That's where they swore us out.
That's where you got your discharge.
Yeah.
Then. So then, when you got home, that was pretty much of an exciting event, I'll imagine. Your mother and your dad and everybody.
Yes, my dad was death on cigarettes. He didn't want any of his kids smoking cigarettes.
Yeah,
well, I smoked cigarettes.
You picked up that nasty habit, huh?
Yeah, and when I came home on the train, my dad came home from San Francisco the day before, and the next day when we came, she wanted to buy me some clothes at Roos Brothers in San Francisco. Well, anyway.
Make you look handsome.
And she wanted to charge me $3.50 for a necktie. I thought that was outrageous.
That was too much.
Well, anyway, another fellow from Reading rode on the train with me coming home, and he was our cook in the Army, and he lived in Reading, and he was anyway we came up on the train that night, and I had to go to the men's room all the time to get a cigarette, you know. I didn't want my mother to know I was smoking cigarettes.
No.
And he smoked too, you see.
Yeah, but he could do it in front of her.
When I got home, George and my brother George and Joe Billieu met me at the depot, and they were both smoking cigarettes.
Yeah.
So I got home, I said, things sure changed around here.
Yeah. Well, now I think the thing we should tell, that Bill is the last actually remaining charter member of the American Legion, which you helped organize after the World War I.
That's right.
Alfred Foster.
They appointed me vice chairman. Vice commander of the American Legion post here, and I'm the last living member, I think.
Yes.
I don't know. I'm not sure of that.
How
but
many?
I know this, that I was on the building committee for Memorial Hall,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm the last living one there.
On that, uh-huh.
Yeah.
The other day I might mention on Memorial Day, which is a few days before this, that Bill drove himself over to the cemetery and sat in the front row and took in the ceremonies just like everybody else, and it was very, and he was introduced as
They introduced me every year.
every year, yes, and I think that's wonderful. Well, listen, then we've got the, now we've passed that, and then this is about the time that you met Georgia then. How long were you home?
I met her in Santa Cruz.
In Santa Cruz.
1921.
You'd been home for a while then.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
But Santa Cruz always kind of was kind of a warm spot in your heart, wasn't it?
Oh,
And you and
sure.
Georgia.
Well,
You always vacation there,
the
and
people that could go, they went to Santa Cruz.
Santa
They
Cruz.
didn't go to Hawaii those days.
No.
Now you go to Hawaii.
No. Well, we might mention that his wonderful wife Georgia passed away a couple of years ago, and she
Yeah.
was a very wonderful person,
Oh,
wonderful wife,
She
mother.
She took to country life. She was a teacher in Sacramento schools,
Hmm.
and she told the teachers down there. She says she lived in Sacramento, and she said, if I ever have to go to another town, I want to go to a bigger town than Sacramento.
Mhm.
So she lived in Willows and liked it.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, they had a wonderful life. They were married almost, what, 70 years?
Over 70.
Over 70 years,
Yeah,
so. And had 3 wonderful children, 2 boys and a girl.
yeah.
And one of his sons has passed away, but the other boy, Baird, has the
Willows
store,
Hardware.
the Willows Hardware, where you had your butcher shop for
That's
many,
right.
many years.
Yeah.
And your daughter is living out west of Willows and still runs a cheese factory. She married a man, Ray Romiano. The Romiano brothers had made cheese, and so now her family. So it's 3rd generation with a hardware store, and I mean the butcher shop, and also 3rd generation with the butch and the cheese factory. So
Cheese
that's
factory,
wonderful.
Yeah, they have a big factory
Yeah.
in Crescent
In
City.
Crescent City also, yeah.
Yeah,
So they're very, very busy
Yeah.
people.
just bought 2 new big diesel refrigerator trucks.
I saw one last night going home with like a 40-foot reefer. It's a huge, beautiful
I don't know
aluminum.
how big they are.
It's beautiful, yes.
Yeah.
And then one of the things that's so important in this town, because I remember it so clearly, and you might tell it, you'll tell it less better than I can, Bill. The Depression is on, things aren't very good, and Bill is a member of the Chamber of Commerce here in Willows because of their meat market, and so one night you bring up this,
Director.
you're a director.
Yeah.
So one night you bring up this idea that
Well,
maybe,
let me tell it.
okay,
They brought it up that we only had $25 in the treasury of the Chamber of Commerce, and that they wanted to know what they could do, you know, to in interest the business houses to pay their dues. It was in a big depression, and they didn't have any money, you know.
right, yes.
And I said, well, you know that the merchants practically support the Chamber of Commerce, and you should never do anything for them. But what would you do? They asked me, and I said, well, put on a celebration of some kind. And I said, Corning has a turkey derby one time. I thought that was
A
pretty
turkey
good.
derby.
And we had such a big lamb country here. At one time, Glenn County shipped more lambs than any county in the state.
That's right, Bill. It was the largest lamb producer in the state of California.
French ranch alone had, I think, 16,000 ewes.
Yes, yes.
And Earl Baird told me one time he was a shearer, and there were 10 in his crew to shear, and he sheared 26,000 sheep for them in 1 year.
Yes, yes. Very large
Yeah.
sheep growers, yeah.
So then they asked me, you know.
Yeah, they want to know what idea you had, huh?
Yeah.
What kind of an idea?
I said, well, they put us a celebration of lambs because this is a big sheep country. And I call it a lamb derby. And so they said, okay, well, we'll appoint you a chairman of a committee to put it on.
Uh-huh.
That was 1934.
34.
So I put it on, the first one, and they people came to me and said, that was great success, we got to have this every year.
That was a wonderful idea, and the Lamb Derby still exists today.
Oh, yeah, very good. I've got moving pictures of as far back as 1936, and I just had a tape made for the TV now that'll show those pictures, 1936 to 1960. I quit taking pictures of some years
Bill was
back.
way ahead of the time. He took 16 millimeter, which
That's
was
right.
pretty far out in those days. And the interesting thing, that people came from miles around to this Lamb Derby. You even had the governor.
It was a great family gathering
yes.
too. From
And I think, didn't you say the first year you had a bean feed, a free bean feed? That's all you had, were just beans in the park. Yeah,
and the restaurants got mad at me because I wanted the business, but they had plenty of business anyway.
Yes.
And
Bill was very capable of appointing people. He had a lady by the name of Mrs. Wetzel
that's right.
that he appointed. I think it had practice or in putting parades on, and
Yeah, she put on doll parade here one time.
yeah, and so she was very strict. And I remember because I was in the first Lamb Derby parade, and everything had to be had to have flowers. I remember that, fresh flowers.
Yeah, but you
on
had
your
to
pet.
You had to have a live pet in the parade.
Yeah, it had to be alive. I had a little pony that Jack Knight, you remember one of your friends, Jack Knight, gave me.
Yeah.
And he said, don't ever sell that pony. And when he left, I asked my dad, I said, why did he say that? I'm not going to sell that pony. Well, he just wanted to make sure you wouldn't sell it. So, but it's gone on for years, and Bill has been named the marshal a couple of times, and everybody, without Bill Weinrich, you wouldn't have the Lamb Derby.
We had Governor Olson here one time, Governor of California, and I have pictures of him in the movies there.
Yes, that was wonderful. And one of the main things, too, that they had were lamb races, Bill. That excited everybody. The kids just had a ball.
Yeah, the directors' meeting, they said, well, how can you make lambs race? Well, I said, you get them on the street running, and the people will come and watch it.
Yes, and they did. They came.
So
we were even on national news. You know how we used to go to the movies and see the news? And we were on that news, I remember, downtown at the theater.
I've got copies of the Wool Growers magazine, which of California.
Of California, with articles in it.
What's her name? Cecile Kramer wrote an article for them, well written.
Yeah.
And I've got it.
I think Chet Wing was there at the time too. Remember, the secretary? I think he used to come
Was he?
to the Lamb Derby. Yes.
I see.
And then you had sheep shearing contests. A lot of people never seen anybody shear sheep.
No.
And they would just get up there and have races to see who could shear the fastest. And it was exciting. It was an exciting event, especially in the Depression. There weren't many things to do. And so this was looked forward to every year.
Yeah.
And so we still thank Bill Weinrich, everybody in town does, when it rolls around.
I've only missed 2 since. I was sick this year. I couldn't go.
And another thing, and I'm backing up a little bit to World War I, but Bill can still fit into his World War I uniform. Because I've seen you.
It's getting pretty tight.
Yeah, it's getting a little tight, but not many of us can fit into the uniform that we wore in the service. But I think then as we roll along, Bill now has a pickup, and he drives around town, and you have the Citizens Band radio in your pickup. Isn't that right? So you keep in touch.
Used to use a lot.
Yeah, stays right up with everything.
Yeah.
And he has a wonderful daughter, I say, and his son. I think they come and check on you every day to see everything's going all right.
Yeah.
And
oh yeah, I have dinner with them, one of them every night.
Every night, isn't that wonderful?
It's been pretty good.
Yes, you have wonderful children and grandchildren. You got a lot of grandchildren.
I'm gaining weight. I gained more weight and I weigh more now than I did when I got out
of the service. Huh?
Out of the service.
Yeah. Willows. What was Willows really like when you were young? I mean.
Willows? Oh well, with no names on the streets.
No
there
names
was no
on the street.
sewer system. I remember when they started digging the first sewer here, and that was about 1906 or 8 along in there.
None of the streets were paved. You didn't have. They were just gravel, weren't they? Yeah.
Gravel. Yeah, and the sprinkling wagon for the dust in the
dust
summer.
down.
When the north wind blew here in Willows, there were no paved streets or roads anyplace. The north wind blew all the dust from Northern California down here.
Down here, yeah. Another thing,
Bill. Old man Potts, he ran for justice of the peace here, way back. And the next day after the election, he came downtown, and a friend met him and says, "How did you run, Potts?" He says, "I never knew there were so many liars in this town."
There's another thing that just happened. We buried a man yesterday in Willows, Orrin Soth.
Oh, yeah.
Now, you probably remember, Bill, because the meat market was right almost there where that happened.
Yeah, I saw it.
Well, why don't you explain to us what happened? Might be interesting for history.
He was on the police force, I think.
Orrin Soth,
I think.
yes. Yes, he was. He was an assistant policeman or something, and Dave Markham.
Dave Markham was the chief of police.
Uh-huh.
And they were together, and this guy, they knew he was a little bit wacky, and they were riding around town watching for him, and he had a shotgun.
Mm-hmm.
So he carried a shotgun down main streets of town and parading around. So they were going to do something about that. And I saw Markham get out of the car where he was hiding behind a brick pile.
Uh-huh.
Up by Corson's Garage, if you remember that.
Yes, right across from the Barton Hotel there,
Yeah,
right in that corner.
Yeah. And anyway, when Markham got out of the car, I saw him slump down into the gutter. And then he'd shot him.
He'd shot him, and the fellow had a shotgun, didn't he?
Yeah.
He had a shotgun, yeah.
He killed him. And he ran around behind the car and shot through the rear window and
shot Orrin Soth in his
on
face,
the side
didn't
of
he?
the face, yeah.
But Orrin kept shooting, I think, didn't he?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think he put some bullets in the fellow and
But he didn't kill him.
didn't kill him. No. And this was 1940.
They
I
put him
remember
in
the
asylum then.
yeah. They put at Tascadero, I think they said, or
Yeah.
something like that. But